How do I get rid of weeds in my new grass? What's wrong with my Arborvitae? And how do I fertilize Zoysia grass? Folks, I've got answers to these questions and more coming up on Garden Sense. Hey everybody, I'm Tim Ward and welcome back to Garden Sense. Well, folks, we are in fall, and being that it's October, we're starting to get a lot of questions about the grass coming up as a result of the overseeding, when to put down certain products after overseeding, and obviously we're starting to get just some odd and end questions regarding my plants. We've got one coming up about Arborvitaes. So we actually selected 4 questions that we want to deal with here today on this week's video podcast. So buckle up, everybody. Let's jump right in. The first question is from Rufus. Good day, Tim. I just aerated, fertilized, and overseeded my lawn. I used Turf Trust and your seed plan. As you can see, I hope that is a new grass, a lawn with the weeds coming in. How should I get rid of the weeds? So obviously the best time to get rid of the weeds would be to use a weed killer on them before you overseed. But since you've overseeded already, and yes, I can see that new grass coming up really well, your options are going to be a little bit limited. First of all, it's October, so I really wouldn't waste a whole lot of time on a weed killer at this point. What I would do though is put down Gallery. Now, I don't know exactly when you put down your new grass seed, but what I would recommend is once it's tall enough and you can begin mowing it, after you've mowed it at least 2 times, you can then safely put down Gallery. Gallery is going to, create that chemical barrier right on the soil surface, which is actually going to help prevent any new weeds from germinating. Then again, in the spring, around March 15th, we want to put down another application of Gallery. Then once we start getting into summer, inevitably you're going to end up with a couple of weeds here and there. Then there's a bunch of products you can use. We obviously recommend Image in terms of killing weeds and crabgrass. You can find that over at rosensonline.com. But in terms of right now, I would wait till that grass matures enough that you can mow it at least 2 times. Then I would get down an application of Gallery. And then once we hit the spring, application of Gallery around March 15th. Then use your weed killers, throughout the summer to kill anything that pops up, and then again make another application of Gallery in the fall. The next question is from Andrea. Hey Tim, we purchased 5 emerald green Arborvitae this spring as a privacy screen on our deck. They all seem to be doing well except for one. There doesn't appear to be insects. What are your thoughts? So anytime you see Arborvitaes reacting this way, there are a couple of things that it could be. Drought stress is really common. If they're just simply not getting enough water, they can start to turn brown. Root damage is another one. In case when it was transplanted into that pot, it just might not be as healthy. Some of those roots got damaged and therefore the tree is now being impacted. Disease is another issue. Insects can cause this. Now, you mentioned in your email that it didn't look to be an insect-related thing, and assuming that you are watering it, appropriately and based on the other 4 Arborvitaes, that's probably the case. It's going to be 2 things, really. It's probably most likely going to be root damage. The roots just may not be mature enough. They're not getting enough nutrition, or obviously it could be some type of a disease. So the first thing I would ask is, have you fertilized? Now, when it comes to Arborvitaes, you definitely want to use Plant Trust. Plant Trust is a great way to fertilize your Arborvitaes. They'll absolutely love it. If it's a root damage thing, I would also recommend that you put down Kickstart. And in fact, I would apply Kickstart as a soil drench to that particular Arborvitae at least once a week for the next month and see if that doesn't help turn it around. Now, the other thing you could do is actually transplant it into a different pot. And I say that because when you transplant it, I would also recommend that you try to swap out the soil. If you can amend the soil without transplanting it, that's fine. But again, it's entirely possible that there's some type of a soil disease in there, or it just might not be that great of soil. So again, if it were me, I would make sure that I'm fertilizing it first. Then I would give it Kickstart to really, help that root system. And then if you do think that there's some root damage or could be some bad bad soil, consider transplanting it. Again, you're just going to want to baby it a little bit, because I'll be quite honest with you, if it's looking like this now, if we can't get on top of this by the winter time, it's probably not going to survive. The third question is from Gene. Hi Tim, I was wondering if you have a lawn calendar for Zoysia grass care. Seems like it would be a bit different than a cool season grass. So warm season grasses definitely have a different fertilization schedule than cool season grasses. And most of the time, a warm season grass doesn't need as much nitrogen as a cool season grass. So you mentioned Zoysia grass. We don't have a formal calendar that I can offer you in terms of Zoysia grass, but here's what I can tell you. In terms of the nitrogen content, it only needs about a ½ pound to a pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. So if you're using a product like Turf Trust, you just need to figure out the square footage of your lawn. That'll help determine exactly how much Turf Trust you want to apply. Now remember, when you're looking at the NPK values, that 24 means that 24% of that bag is the actual nitrogen in the fertilizer. So again, you want to use that 24 as the calculation in terms of figuring out how much nitrogen you want to be putting down, how much Turf Trust you need to purchase. There are really two times you want to fertilize your Zoysia grass during the summer. So you want to do it first once it starts to green up. So about 2 or 3 weeks after it greens up, which is usually going to be in that late spring, that's when you want to get down your first application. If you're using Turf Trust, then you know it's going to feed that lawn slowly and gently for up to 13 weeks. So let's say you put it down in late May, early June. You really don't have to worry about fertilizing it again until early August, and that's when you would make that second application. Now, if you are really concerned about the long-term health of your Zoysia grass, I would recommend a third application of Turf Trust fertilizer a couple of weeks before it goes dormant. The reason we want to do this is we want the grass roots to take in as much nutrition as it can and store it over the winter. Obviously, we do this a lot with your cool season grasses. Something like a tall fescue, we recommend 4 feedings per year, with the most important being that 4th feeding just before the grass goes dormant. That's what allows that grass to, take in that nutrition but not use it. It stores it in the root system. The roots become really strong. And then in the spring, when things warm up, you've got a super green lawn right off the bat. It's really the same principle. You want to allow your Zoysia grass to take in some of that nutrition but not use it. You want it to be stored in the grass roots. So put an application down late May, early June, put a second application down in early August, and then put a final application down a couple of weeks before it would typically go dormant, and you should have one of the greenest and best looking Zoysia lawns in your neighborhood. The final question for today is from Vince. Hi Tim. I applied Dimension in the spring for crabgrass control, and Turflawn Ester and Spreader Sticker a few times in the spring and summer for Bermuda grass control. Is there anything else I can apply to control the smaller weeds, and when should it be applied? So if we're talking about killing weeds, then frankly Turflawn Ester is a really good product for killing most broadleaf weeds. There are some better products out there, but since you're already putting it down to control Bermuda grass, it's certainly going to kill some of the broadleaf weeds that come up. However, the idea, ideally, would be to prevent those weeds from showing up altogether. And so the best way to do that is to use a product like Gallery. Now, you already use Dimension, and Gallery is the same type of product in terms of the mechanics of how it works. Creates a chemical barrier on the surface, and it prevents new weeds from germinating, or if they have just germinated, they're not going to break through the soil surface. So when we recommend Gallery, there's really 2 times a year that we recommend putting it down. The first would be right now. If you have not overseeded your lawn, then you can go ahead and put it down anytime, late August, really up until mid to, late October. If you have overseeded, then you just want to make sure that you wait until you've mowed that new grass at least 2 times, and then you can safely put it down. If you put it down, let's say in early September, you definitely cannot overseed your lawn because that chemical barrier is going to be there for at minimum 2 months, and it's going to kill any grass seed. So putting it down now if you're not overseeding is something we definitely recommend. That's going to help take care of some of those early spring weeds that like to pop up. Then what we recommend is you put down gallery around mid-March, and what that's going to do is prevent some of those seeds that germinate in the springtime from popping up in the summer. So that way, when you're putting down your turf lawn ester application to control your Bermuda grass, you're frankly not going to have nearly as many broadleaf weeds that you have to take care of. It sounds like you've got a real good plan already with the Dimension and the turf lawn ester. I really believe that if you add gallery to that schedule, put something down in the fall, put something down in the springtime, and keep alternating back and forth between the spring and the fall, your lawn is going to be looking great. All right, everybody, just a couple final thoughts before we wrap up this week's video podcast. Folks, I've mentioned this several weeks in a row now, but over at rosensonline.com, we have our annual fall feeding frenzy. This is a 3-bag combo of either our maintenance fertilizer or the starter formula. It comes in the 5M size bags or the 10M size bags. It's a great way to save money on the product that your lawn needs right now. Obviously, it's going to qualify for free shipping as well. So head over to rosensonline.com and take advantage. Put it down for your 3rd feeding and make sure that you buy enough again for your 4th feeding that's going to hit here, sometime before your lawn goes dormant in November. Folks, I also want to remind you that now is the time to feed a lot of your deciduous shrubs as well as your trees. So over at rosensonline.com, pick up a bag or 2 of Plant Trust, and during checkout, use the coupon code PT10. That's P for plant, T for trust, and the number 10. And we're actually going to take 10% off of the cost of Plant Trust. So again, if you want to combine the Plant Trust along with something like the fall feeding frenzy, you're going to be saving a lot of money. And again, we are happy to give these opportunities to you in terms of saving money because you guys have been such a loyal audience. And we know that now is a time that you need to feed your lawn, and now is a time that you need to feed your trees and your shrubs. Folks, if you have questions that you would like to have featured on this program, or just questions because you need help and you want a better looking lawn, you want great looking gardens, then make sure you send an email directly to me, tim@rosensonline.com. I will answer each and every email that I receive. We have been just incredibly busy with emails these last few months. We've never had volume quite this high, but that's okay. We're going to get back to each and every one of you. Just be patient with me as I try to sift through the dozens and dozens of emails I get each and every day. Folks, thank you so much for spending the time with us to watch this video. We really, really appreciate it. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the week. God bless.